One of the frustrating things about the media coverage, because this week I saw more media coverage of gold than I've seen in a long time, right? Don't wait for Monday. Don't even wait for Sunday night. You watch this video, go and buy gold or silver and do it now.
They laughed when Peter Schiff warned about gold. They called him old-fashioned, outdated, a relic of the past. But today, gold has shattered $4,000. And silver just broke its all-time record. And Peter Schiff says, this is only the beginning. Because what's happening right now isn't just a rally. It's a reckoning. A global confession that the dollar is dying, and that real money, gold and silver, are taking back their throne. In this powerful message, Peter Schiff explains why Bitcoin's so-called scarcity is a myth, why gold is irreplaceable, and why those who wait will watch this historic revaluation from the sidelines. So stay tuned, because what Peter's about to reveal could change the way you see wealth forever.
The reason that people need to own gold, the reason that people need to own silver, these are real stores of value. They represent actual precious metals that are scarce, naturally scarce, not a man-made construct. And they're scarce also in the sense that there are no real substitutes. If you need gold, you need gold. Gold is the only metal that has those particular properties. You don't need Bitcoin. There's thousands of other cryptos that basically can do whatever Bitcoin does. In fact, a lot of them do it better and faster and cheaper than Bitcoin. So it's not even really scarce in that sense because there's so many substitutes. They just have a different name. And of course, you know, it's not scarce in the sense that each Bitcoin can be broken up into 121 million Satoshis. So there's the total supply, 100 million Satoshis. So there's 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis. Nobody needs to buy any particular quantity of Bitcoin. One Satoshi will do you, right? Or you could buy a few 100,000. There's enough for every man, woman, and child in America, or in the world rather, to have a few 100,000 Satoshis. But you know, for all practical purposes, you can't break gold up into that tiny of a quantity. Because if you need gold, you need a specific amount of gold to do the job. A microscopic speck isn't going to do it. But for Bitcoin, you know, you don't do anything with it anyway. So it doesn't really matter how many sats you have. And remember, Bitcoin is just an arbitrary bundle of Satoshis. They could have said that each Bitcoin doesn't have 100 million Satoshis. It has 10 million Satoshis. In which case, there wouldn't be just 21 million Bitcoin. There'd be 210 million. Or they could have said each Bitcoin is 10 million or a million Satoshis rather. And then there'd be 2.1 billion of these things. They wouldn't seem that scarce if they had set it up that way, but it would be the exact same situation. But this is going to be another example of why Bitcoin is not a store of value. Because one of the frustrating things about the media coverage, because this week I saw more media coverage of gold than I've seen in a long time. And that's what made me think that, well, maybe we'll have a pullback because now the media is finally talking about gold. And that's possible, right? We may pull back. I wouldn't want to bet on it. And even if we get a pullback, I don't expect the pullback to be significant. I think there's too much buying that's going to be coming into the market for there to be that big of a pullback. And therefore, it doesn't make any sense to wait for one. It makes much more sense to do exactly on these market wraps every week, which is just buy, right? Don't wait for Monday. Don't even wait for Sunday night. You watch this video, go and buy gold or silver and do it now. Because chances are there won't be a big move until the Asian markets open for trading later Sunday night. You want to get in before that because so far every Monday, these markets gap up. This week was no exception. Gold was up like $70 an ounce on Monday. Silver was up big too, maybe $1. I forget exactly how much. But everybody who took my advice and bought over the weekend captured all of this week's gains. You got the 3% gain in gold. and you got the 4.5% gain in silver. Now, my guess is, given this volatility that's going on in the stock markets, given the risk and the uncertainty now with these higher tariffs and the reimposition of that kind of risk, now that gold has already closed above 4,000, that is a significant psychological breakthrough. And silver hitting an all-time record high. That's the one thing that hasn't happened. Gold was hitting record highs, but silver had not. And that was one of the reasons I kept telling everybody, buy some silver, because it hasn't even gotten back to its 1980 peak. Well, now it took out the 1980 peak. Silver finally made an all-time record high, and it closed at an all-time closing high. So you have silver breaking out above 50. You have gold breaking out above 4,000. I think it's far more likely that money is going to rush in to buy that breakout than is going to cash out and take profits. In fact, I think the profit taking already happened on Thursday. I think the guys that wanted to sell the highs already did it. And then some weaker hands got flushed out because they were afraid that the market was going to drop more. And so they got out, which is great. You always want to shake out, the weaker players, the leverage players, the players that don't have real conviction in the trade. Get rid of that dead wood, and it's easier for the market to go up. So I would not be surprised if there is a huge move up again in gold and silver. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if silver gaps above 51 on Monday. And who knows where gold's going to be? I mean, gold could hit 4,100. I mean, maybe gold will be up $100, or it closed around 4,018 or something like that. So it doesn't quite need to be up $100. But if it's up $50, it's at a new all-time record high. But to me, I think it's very likely that that's going to happen. But getting back to what I was talking about in the media has finally been talking about gold. And the frustrating part about it is they have no idea why it's going up. And the funny part is how they tried to attribute it to everything other than the actual problem, because they don't want to have to admit that gold at 4,000 is not a good sign, right? Because they want to pretend that everything is great, especially the Republicans, especially if you watch Fox or, watch Larry Kudlow's show, right? Because they think the economy is booming, nothing could be better, giving it all credit to Donald Trump, right? So there's nothing to worry about. Inflation is gone. We have the hottest economy in the world. The U.S. is the strongest economy in the world. But why is gold at 4,000? It's right. If all these good things are happening, why is gold flashing this warning sign? And so they're trying to dismiss what's happening by saying, well, it's not really a warning. I thought one of the funniest explanations that the Kudlow crew came up with was that it was Europeans that are buying because they're worried about their economies. They're worried about inflation. So they're the ones that are hedging, right? But of course, gold is going up in dollars too. It's not just going up in euros. We have an inflation problem. They just don't want to admit that. The United States has a credibility problem. The world no longer has confidence in our ability to pay our debts without it creating massive inflation. And Trump is one of the reasons that the world is losing confidence in us, because he signed on to the big, beautiful bill, which took the Biden deficits and made them worse. And he's the one that is beating the Fed up about cutting interest rates, slashing interest rates, firing FOMC members, sticking his own people in there, taking over the Fed. This is challenging the idea that the Fed is independent. And this is scaring our creditors. And, the media is also trying to pretend. I heard some people talking about how, investors have been driving this, retail investors. No, they're not. I know for a fact this has got nothing to do with retail investors. The retail business has been slow. It's picked up a little bit over the last few weeks, but it's still slow. And it's not just at Schiff Gold. The retail public is just getting in on this trade. Investors are finally being told by their Main Street, Wall Street firms to include gold in their portfolios. They haven't been responsible for the run-up. So gold has gone from 2,000 to 4,000 with very little private investor participation. It's all been driven by global central banks. And global central banks aren't anywhere near finished buying. They are ongoing buyers. They have so many dollars to divest, and they've got to buy gold. So now the investing public is just joining. So the upward pressure on gold is going to intensify. But on silver, because the central banks were never even part of the silver story, that's why silver took so long to move. Silver now is being bought, I believe, by retail investors or some institutions that now realized how cheap it was. But it's still cheap, right? I think anything below 100 still is cheap. So $50 silver is still cheap. I mean, because $50 is what some people paid for silver in 1980.
The writing is on the wall. Gold has spoken. Silver has answered. And Peter Schiff's warning couldn't be clearer. This isn't a moment to watch from the sidelines. It's a moment to act. Because once the world wakes up to real value, the price you see today may never come again. If you found this message eye-opening, share it with everyone who needs to hear the truth. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon. Because this new era for gold and silver is only just beginning.